everyone, this is Michelle Kane with Michelle Kane Actions, and today we're going to take a look at editing some sunshine pictures, beach pictures, and just basically summertime photos. I just want to show you some tips and tricks that I use to punch out kind of the color and the warmth in my photos that aren't necessarily captured in camera. And I'm going to show you some steps in Lightroom, which you can also do in Camera Raw, or ACR, I'm sorry. And some steps that you're going to do inside of Photoshop. And we'll look at a variety of pictures today. So the first picture that I want to show you is this landscape that I shot in Hawaii, and this was shot with a 24-70. And the first thing that I like to do whenever I'm shooting a wide lens, like anything wider really than wider than 35 millimeters, is to come into the develop module here in Lightroom, and we're going to go down to the lens correction section here, and I go ahead and enable the profile corrections, and this should detect the lens that you shot the image with. And as I click it on and off, you'll see how it just kind of flattens out the distortion that was captured in the picture. Now you can further go in and manually change some of these things with the manual selection and change the distortion this way, taking it in or taking it out, but I like to correct that on landscapes particularly, and also if I shoot a real wide lens, shooting a human subject. It just kind of flattens them out and helps to make them not look so wide. So that's the first thing I do, and then I just try to make sure on a landscape that my horizon line is straight. So if I needed to turn that, I could also rotate, scale it, that kind of thing right here in the corrections. So once I have that selected, I'm going to show you how easy it is to edit this inside of Photoshop. And I'll show you my go-to action right now is the action called Rejoice from the Half-Light collection. So we're seeing this image just as it was shot inside of Photoshop now, and I'm going to run the action Rejoice. And we're going to be using this action on all of the images today that I'm showing you. But as we click this on and off, what you're going to see is it really gives some pop and life to the picture. Now it isn't exactly how I want it, and we're going to go in and customize a few things. So if we open up the Rejoice action folder here, there's a layer in here called Rejoice Bright, and actually I want to turn that off on this picture. I think it's bright enough as is. And then there's a Rejoice Warm Shadows, and if we turn this on and off, you can see that in the shadowy darker areas of the picture it really gets some warm tones into it. And I like this to an extent, but I'm just going to select that layer and take this opacity down about halfway, from 50 to about 25 there, so that our blacks aren't just like dead dull blacks, but they're not crazy warm blacks. And I suggest that on this particular action that you go ahead and just click all the different layers off. Maybe zip is too much or too little. If we click the blues pop, we're going to see how it really took our blues and made them really nice. I love what it did to the sky, but it might be a little overkill considering the water here was very blue and aqua to begin with. So if that's the case, we can just grab that layer mask there, and with a black brush, move my toolbar in here. With a black brush, I can get like maybe a 40% opacity brush, just hitting the 4 key on my keyboard, and just remove some of that blues pop right here. And then I'll click on and off the boost layer, and you can see that that's really changing it up quite a bit. That's where we get all of our pop and pizzazz. If I'm losing any detail, I'll just come in here and zip it off again with my black brush on my layer mask. And then if we need to add any extra clarity, we could always amp this layer up. And let's close this down and look at the before and the after. One nice little action that works great for bringing out the blues, popping out greens, giving just an overall boost and a nice warmth to the picture. Very quick and easy. Let's take a look at the next one. Alright, so here's an image that was shot again on the beach, shooting with the sun facing the subject, so we get nice vibrant colors generally. But what I want to do again is play Rejoice, but I want to go ahead and do a couple little tweaks to this before I take it into Photoshop. So I know Rejoice is going to brighten things up a lot, so I'm just going to pull my exposure down, which helps me to get my sky a little punchier, things a little darker. And we're going to add warmth with Rejoice, so I don't need to do that here. So really I'm just taking this exposure down about a half a stop, and then we'll edit that inside of Photoshop. Let me see if I have it open here. I didn't think I did. So I'm going to just right click on this and say edit in Photoshop. And it's opening up right now. And what we're going to do again, play Rejoice. And right there, let's click it on and off. Just the life and the color and the toning of the skin, the brightness of the skin is gorgeous. Once again, you can open up the layers inside of here. Maybe if you want, you know, more or less warmth, you could adjust that. If the boost is too much or too little in any place, maybe the boost I like because it lightens up everything in the picture. Maybe we'll leave this, actually we'll invert the layer mask. That's probably the easiest way. I just select the layer mask and then on my keyboard, Command or Control I, and that inverts it. So now with a white brush on that black mask, I can actually just add in this little bit of boost on her, and it leaves everything else nice and punchy. So if you see that just kind of brightens up her, it gives us kind of a natural vignetting sort of feature to the picture. If the bright's too much, again, what I want to do is highlight her, and so I'm going to take this layer mask, Command or Control I to invert it, and so everything else becomes punchier, and then I'll just kind of start to expose the Rejoice Bright on her, and now we kind of get this nice little vignetting effect again. So if we click the whole thing on and off, kind of a dull image, and now we have some life to the picture. I would probably go in there and be, you know, a little bit more careful with how I'm painting these effects on and off, and you know, a little bit slower and more methodical if I wasn't doing a video here. But you get the point here. With just Rejoice, get a lot of pizzazz and life into this picture. All right, let's move on to the next one. So this next image was shot in a shady kind of day. It was a little bit overcast, so it's not really overly exciting. It's just, I like the movement and everything in the picture, but I just, there's nothing really popping in the image. So again, with this, I'm not changing anything from the original here. I could go ahead and brighten the exposure if I wanted to, but I'm just going to show you how Rejoice once again works well for this picture. Let's go back into Photoshop, open this image, Rejoice, and what I love is how it makes the subject pop. Now we see his face, everything's really beautiful. If everything else in the picture around him in the backdrop gets too bright, we could always just take this entire action layer mask here on Rejoice, and with a black brush just start to bring some of the edges down. Again, because it brightened everything, this is basically just vignetting the edges down just a smidge so that he becomes the bright part in the picture and the edges are nice and dark. In here, I would probably go in and just amp up the clarity layer just a little bit. And if you wanted to, again, go in and click on and off each of the layers to see what they're doing to the picture, if you need more or less of that particular one. Maybe it caused it to be too warm. If that's the case, Rejoice Warmth Shadows. I might just pull that down just a little bit, maybe halfway. And the zip I like, we can even amp up the zip just a little bit. And there you go. You got all the layers you need in one tidy little action. Let's look at the next one here in Lightroom. These next two I'm going to show you, well actually this one here. This is the original out of camera, and I'm going to show you how I would bring back some of the detail in the sky. Now I shoot all of my pictures raw, and so I have a lot more detail and information in the photo file to work with, so I can bring back details. So again, this was a little bit of an overcast moment in the day, and in trying to expose for the subject, the sky gets blown out. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it to this level, and we're going to do that inside of Lightroom. Again, you can do this in ACR as well. So what we're going to do is go up to the graduated filter, and we're going to take the exposure down, and I'm not going to change the color temperature now, But if I just pull a gradient down, you can see there were some clouds there and there's some information tucked away in this picture. But it's kind of dull, it's not really pretty, so what I like to do is take the temperature and just pull it over to the blue side, and now we've got some nice blue clouds that kind of fade into the background here, or fade into the horizon line of the rocks, I should say. So now that we have a little bit of detail to work with, we can take this picture in and take it into Photoshop, and once again, here's the finished product after I've played Rejoice. It added some nice warmth into the image. His skin tone looks punchier and nicer, and here's the original. Again, here's with Rejoice. Now this last one here, the changes that I would make to this photo are, again, because it was shot with a very wide lens, we're going to come down and do that little trick with the lens correction. We're going to enable the profile, and you can see it's all bubbled out in the center, and now it kind of flattens that up a little bit. We can do it even further if we want to. Manually, we can rotate it. If you just kind of hover over with your mouse over the rotate, you're going to get this grid that kind of helps you to tell if your horizon is straight or not. We can also continue to take the distortion in just a little bit, and I'm going to just rotate it just because I'm very anal about my horizon line being pretty straight, so something along those lines. And then what I like to do is if I shoot anybody with really white skin, or I happen to overexpose a little bit too much, I find this is very much the case when I shoot full sun pictures in the summertime, especially of my own children or just playtime. The lights get way too bright. So again, in Lightroom, I like to just take the highlights all the way down. You can see we get a lot more detail back into the sky especially. And on this particular picture, I've overexposed, so thank goodness I shot raw, and I can take that exposure down. Now, to bring out the punchiness, because what I saw with my human eye when I was in this location was so much grander and vibrant and beautiful than what was really captured in the camera. And so I want to bring that forth in the editing so that it looks like it really did that day for me. So this is the version that we're going to edit instead of Photoshop. So again, I would take this edited version. Here's our before. Actually, let me show you the before. Here's our before. And here's what we're going to edit. And I have that open in Photoshop as well. So here, again, it's nice and sharp, and it's a perfectly nice photo as is, but just if you want to add a little punchiness, we're going to do Rejoice again. And you can see what it's done to the green rocks below in the foreground here. And in the background, we lose a little bit of that punchiness in the blue sky, but I love everything, how the rocks here get nice and warm. And we'll just open it up again. And I think the Rejoice Bright needs to go off. It's a little too bright. I think the blues pop we can take down just a smidge. And actually, I might just come in here with the blues pop and with my brush, black brush, just kind of remove some of this blues pop just off of the front here, so it's not crazy. So that way we get our nice blue sky, but our green in the foreground here doesn't get too crazy. I think the warmth is a little too much, so again, I would just pull that back just a little bit so that they don't get too warm. And then if we want a little less zing, we can kind of click these layers on and off and see what we're getting here. And I love when this Rejoice boost layer is off, the sky looks phenomenal. When it's on, it kind of lightens up a little bit. So again, I'm just going to take that layer mask and just cover up some of that Rejoice boost on the top so it becomes dark again. And I think that looks pretty good. So if we just take this, click it on and off, you can see that nice little change. It didn't need a whole lot, but it just brought in the drama that was really there that day when I shot this photograph. I hope you found this helpful. Rejoice has really been my go-to action, again from the Half-Light collection. It's my go-to one for all of my summer pictures, whether I'm shooting at the beach or I'm shooting at the pool, or any other location really. It really helps to bring a nice warmth into the skin. It helps to bring back details that are otherwise lost in the picture, and overall it just pops out the picture just beautifully. I hope you'll experiment with that and with the minor changes that I showed you here in Lightroom to help your summer photos really shine this summer. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it, and have a blessed day.